This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country, and we join their calls for justice.
Serious danger to Australia.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, Emerald. Oh, my God.
It's been so long since I've seen you. Just kidding. We've been recording. We just finished our main episode. We ran out of time. We want to talk about Register of Interests. So we're doing it just for our lovely Patreon subscribers. Hey, cuties.
Thank you so much for supporting the show, you guys. We appreciate it. You're paying the Griff's wage. You're helping us host the show. We are volunteers. None of the money goes to us. Want to make that very clear.
Someone on Twitter said the other day when I liked their tweet, they were like, yeah, I pay you. You should be liking my tweets. And I was like, you don't pay me, unfortunately. But you do pay Mike,
yes,
who is what we actually need to be able to run the show. He makes
Can
it all
you
happen.
imagine
So
doing this without Mike or someone else taking care of all the other back end shit?
Absolutely not. No.
No good. Thank you for being patrons. And remember, there's a whole bunch of back catalogue, including our last episode with Will Anderson. If you want to have a listen to that, a great chat about his politics, capitalism and advertising.
It's very good.
It's very good stuff. What is the Register of Interests?
Well, it's where you register your interests.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So,
Bye, everyone.
And I'm not talking about things like poetry, I don't know, 17th century art, history, trivia, not that kind of interest, but things like shares, and real estate. It's where theoretically, this is where all the members of Parliament, including the lower house and the Senate, put their list of assets and things that could potentially cause a conflict of interest in their role as an MP, things like memberships. It includes all of their spouses' stuff as well, which we'll get into. But they have to do it at the start of every Parliament. They've got 28 days after being sworn in to upload their Register of Interests. There's a little form that they put on the website. For the 47th Parliament, they still have a couple of weeks left to upload them. They should be done in the next couple of weeks, but they're starting to roll in. We've got about 30 there. So I thought, why not just jump in and have a look at what we've got there already?
Please.
And find out what these MPs are interested in. Are you excited, Tom?
Well, it's so good. I mean, regularly it's come up. It's very funny to see, particularly whenever you see a story about how many properties that the Parliament owns and, of course, how fucked our housing crisis is. And, oh, my God, our entire Parliament is full of fucking landlords. I think at one point there was some Nationals MP who owned between 20 or 25 various properties in investment properties across the board. It's
my God.
insane. So it is great to see. We also love it's like going through someone's cupboard or whatever. It's it's a fun little thrill, and some of it is very funny. And I just thought of it because Sally Situ, the Labor MP, came up. There's a story about her interests. I don't know if you've written it down there, but her partner. Have. Okay, yeah, cool. We'll get to her. But
we'll get to it.
Some investments that her spouse has got going on.
So yes, I read through the 30-ish documents that have been uploaded so far. The first thing that I learned was that there are 3 things every Australian MP cannot live without, Tom.
Yes.
The first is real estate, of course.
Oh, of course, yes.
The second is apparently a Qantas and or Virgin Lounge membership of fucking course.
Of course.
And the third is something to prove they like footy. That's essential. If you don't have something that shows you like the footy, most of it'll be like box tickets, whatever, free tickets that they get as gifts because they have to report their gifts. Or it'll be like a signed jersey or, lots of scarves and footy shorts and things like that because it is fucking essential that they have a close and personal relationship with either the AFL or the NRL, depending on what state they're in.
Great. Now, remember that, none of this stops them from doing shit that will benefit. Like, the idea that just declaring this gets rid of the conflict of interest. It's not like they can, not pass legislation or not vote on anything. It's just that they've published this online, therefore everyone knows it's happening and everything carries on as it continues.
Tom, it's like when you go to confession and then the priest says, okay, now you've told me. You're forgiven. That's how it works, right?
Oh, good.
Well, thank you for telling me. Now go forth and masturbate and just like go forth and be corrupt in Parliament.
Now you've confessed your sins to me, a pedophile. You're totally fine.
Oh my God. Anyway, They also, I don't know what this is, but for some reason, almost all of them report free Foxtel in their office from Astra.
Okay.
I don't know what that's about, but I'm sus on it because I'm like, why do you all get free Foxtel? What is Astra doing? I guess to watch their sport.
Well, Sky News. They need to watch the little Sky News.
Yeah. So that's interesting. But yes.
Which, I don't know if you know this, I'm a Qantas Club member, by the way.
You're a Qantas Club member?
I'm a Qantas Club member.
What happens in there?
You've never been in the Qantas Club Lounge?
No, I'm not I feel richer than I've ever been in my life, but still not enough to have a fucking Qantas Club membership. Jesus.
Yeah, well, I got it because when you start flying with ABC, when I was working at the ABC, they fly with everything with Qantas. Then you build up the points, then you become a gold member, and this is sort of how it works.
Public service waste.
Defund.
Yeah, exactly.
In the Qantas Club, they have switched from Sky News to ABC News on the TVs that's playing, and it does make it a much more
because the
enjoyable
ABC
process.
was giving them so much money. It's game of mates, Tom. Game of mates.
That's true. Boys Club.
Me. You. This is what you were kind of getting at, I think, with Sally Satu. So many of our MPs, you'll be pleased to know, are prepared for the coming storm, the apocalypse, or just the collapse of fiat currency.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Sally Satu's partner has investments in not only gold, very important for when the actual money collapses,
yes,
but Ethereum, the cryptocurrency. Right. Cryptocurrency, famously good investment, doing well.
Really good.
So that's good for her. Like, her partner is not the only one. Luke Howarth, who's the LNP member for Petrie, has quote unquote crypto savings.
Is that all he says on these forms?
Well, he has other things, but that's one of the things that he lists as a saving is, it just says, doesn't say what kind of cryptocurrency. It's just like savings. Bert Van Manen, is that how you pronounce his name? Which I only learned from looking at this form that his name is, I'd always heard it as Bert, but his name is Albertus. I just never thought about that. It's just so funny to me. And of course, Mr. Albertus has gold and silver bullion. Very good to have, very good to have. And Cassandra Fernando, the ALP member for Holt, has cryptocurrency from crypto.com.
Oh, my Lord.
These guys are going to, look, they're going to be the ones who are laughing. They'll be laughing when everything collapses. We'll look like damn fools. And they'll be there with their special ape drawings. How are those going, by the way?
I think NFTs are doing something. Yeah, I don't know.
They're doing, yeah, good. None of them. I don't think any listed any NFTs. I wasn't looking closely enough, but who knows? Maybe in the coming documents.
The hundreds more registered declaration of interest to come. So I'm sure they're in there somewhere.
Yeah. At the top of all their forms, one of the first things that they list is shares that they have in different companies. They don't have to say how many shares or what they're worth or whatever. They just have to list the companies in which they hold an interest.
Right.
And this is that, it's a real ride. So Bridget Archer, the LNP member for Bass, her spouse has shares in just about every fossil fuel or mining venture that you can possibly imagine. I'm just trying to find, so like BHP, Beach Energy, Central Petroleum, Q Energy, Evolution Mining, Grange Resources, Newcrest Mining, Pioneer Resources, and then also Universal Biosensors, which just sounds sus to me. What is a biosensor?
I don't know what biosensor is. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I don't know what it is. Similarly, Warren Ench, the LNP member for Leichhardt, has a shitload of mining and resources interests in a company called Drone Shield, which just sounds sus. It sounds scary. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
Well, if you want to protect yourself, you want a shield, and it's 2022, so that shield should be made out of drones. Is it a shield from
drones, or is it made of drones?
It's like Israel's Iron Dome. That's all.
Yeah, I was going to say, all I know is it's probably killing children somewhere. So good for you, Warren Ench.
Good on you,
Hope
mate.
that you're getting some good dividends. Because, your income from Parliament's not enough.
It's not enough. What, only 211? 211K? Come on.
This is also one of those exercises reading through these where I'm like, who the fuck are all these people?
Of course.
They're like, who are these MPs? Kate Thwaites, great name. She's the ALP member for Jugga Jugga.
Mm-hmm.
Her spouse has shares in BHP and Woodside, which is really awesome.
That checks out.
That, Yep. That makes a lot of sense. The other thing
the climate wars are over, everyone. The climate wars are over.
Yeah, climate wars are over. Yeah. Now we've got these folks in there. The other funny thing is like there are pretty significant variations in the level of detail that people provide in their shares. And this isn't, maybe it's just me who found this particularly sinister, but some of them just did this cursed list of acronyms. So like instead of saying the names of the companies, it's just this like long list of scary acronyms. Graham Perrott, for example, BOQ, CBA, TWE, WBC, COL, CSL, EDV, RHC, WOW, XRO. Like, what are these? There's literally a list of just like 13 acronyms.
Yeah.
Same, Helen Haynes, her partner, has just, it's this long list of acronyms, 15 fucking companies that he's got shares in. I'm like, I don't want to know what fucking drones and biosensors and coal and gas and whatever weapons are in there, but I know they're in there.
They're very busy. You know, they're busy people.
What are you hiding behind your acronyms?
They don't have time to write everything out, you know.
Well,
they should have to fucking read this shit out in their first speech. That's what they should do.
Yes.
They should just be on their website. They should stand up, give their first speech and like have to read all this saying, hello, I love Drone Shield. And it's a pleasure to be re-elected once again.
Literally, I would like to thank. But then on the other end of the spectrum are the MPs who put in like a lot of detail and list things that you're like, did you really have to put that in? And it's kind of cute. So, for example, Zoe Daniel has listed all these gifts that she's got from people, and it's stuff like lunch from Red Emperor South Bank, poster, woman's place is in the house from Nordacious, pot plants from someone called Carolyn Glaskadine, woolen scarf and hat, and then like a bunch of books.
We get it, bitch. You have friends.
Yeah, literally. Flowers, VCTU. Like, okay, you're fucking getting showered with gifts. Well done. How nice. But then at one page I was like, oh, book and tote bag. Like, how cute. Who's it from? Minerals Council of Australia. Yeah.
Don't take it. Send it back. Send back the totes.
Not the tote bag. Yeah. Then they also have to list their bank accounts, which I assume this is just them all being so rich that they can't fit all their money in one bank account. I don't know. To me, it's more like when I was trying to figure out what bank account I wanted to have open, and at one point you'd have like 3 bank accounts open because you hadn't been bothered to close one after you'd taken all your money out of Westpac and you put it into another one. These people, Anne Stanley, the ALP member for Werriwa, just lists 7 times saving accounts. Why do you need 7? Why 7?
Savings? How are you that can't be good.
I don't know.
Interest rates, or maybe they have certain limits on them.
I don't know. I'm not an accountant, but like that doesn't sound good.
I see how she has 2 residential and 2 investment properties as well, which is so you know that's a lot of money to stick in all those various accounts, I suppose. Yeah,
no, that's the thing. A lot of them, when they have a bunch of accounts, they'll be like the million mortgages or accounts that are related to the million properties they have. Because as you rightly point out, Tom, there are just so many landlords on this list. I wasn't even like, I think, you know, I know Crikey keeps a running list. When all of the register of interests are updated, they will look at how many properties all of the MPs own. I don't think I saw any that didn't own any property. Like, so there's the landlords, there's a lot of them, and then there are a few who just own their own home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only ones I saw who didn't, like who are obviously renters, is like Stephen and Max. Obviously.
Yes.
There may be more, though, that haven't put their register of interests up yet. That's definitely possible.
I don't think there are any other I think we'd know if there are any other renters in the Parliament. I sincerely don't think it is anyone. Even, again, the Labor, all the young, diverse Labor ones, they're all doing okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the thing. In Queensland Parliament, when we did this analysis as well, because like our Greens MPs are both renters, and there would be like 1 or 2 other renters, but it's like because they've just sold, they've got investment properties, but they like rent a property while they're just for fun, basically, like because it's easier or whatever. It's not because they have to, because they can't afford a property.
It is fun, isn't it?
And like there's stuff. I mean, I would like to know. I don't want to pry into Dan Tian's private life, But I noticed that his spouse has a residence in the ACT, which was like you have to say whether it's your residence, as in the place where you primarily live, or it's an investment. She's got one in the ACT. He has one in Victoria. Like, you guys okay?
Oh.
They've got a bunch of investments as well, but their residences are in different places, whereas most people that said they live with their spouse. Maybe they just have an unconventional relationship. Look, I'm not I can't talk.
The ultimate was, remember Joe Hockey, who got the living allowance and then was renting the house in Canberra that was owned by his fucking wife.
Yeah.
So the public purse was paying off the mortgage of his wife while he was there as the fucking treasurer of the fucking country, for fuck's sake.
The register just is one of those things that makes you realize what a foreign world this is. Peter Murphy, who is apparently the ALP member for Dunkley, listed in her real estate a beach box. And I was like, is this a typo? What's a beach box? I had to Google what a beach box is. Do you know what this is?
I don't know what a beach box is, no.
It's like a house on the beach, but it's like a small house. It's like a little cubby. I don't know if you can actually sleep in it or not, or if you literally just get to sit on the beach in this small, they're usually kind of brightly coloured little timber small house things on a beach.
Like
I know they have
shack.
them I've seen them in England. Yeah, like a little shack thing. She's got a beach box.
Okay.
So go off, Peter. How nice for you.
The ultimate, do you remember Bob Catter's approach to the disclosure of interests? Have you ever heard this?
No, what do you mean?
Bob Catter refuses to disclose his wife's financial interests. So whenever he does this fucking form, and I'd be interested to see when it comes through in the 47th Parliament, but he's written this on a form. My wife has at times bought and sold some investment properties. She regards this as her private business. That's it. That's all he fucking wrote.
Okay, but this is an interesting question I did want to raise while we're on this. Like, what do you think of the spouse thing? Because, I mean, on the one hand, when it doesn't apply to my friends, I'm like, yeah, if it's the evil, rich, dodgy people, they probably will just transfer everything into their wife's name if they didn't have to declare it, and that's how they would get around declaring any genuine conflicts of interest. But at the same time, I'm like, it's so old-fashioned to assume that you necessarily have access to or like the same interests as your spouse, don't you think?
No, I think it's totally fine.
Well,
I don't think it's like buying into the patriarchal institution of marriage or whatever to assume that you will benefit from your partner's shared wealth. That wealth isn't sort of generally, that doesn't involve your interests as well. I think it's totally fine.
I guess I just think of it. Yeah, I think about it in the context, like for me, see, my experience of this kind of application of that rule is like being on Centrelink and your partner has like a job, and that for some reason then means that you can't get Centrelink, when obviously just because you live with them when you're 22 years old, they're not fucking paying for any of your shit. Like, you're still fucking poor. I guess it's maybe a different situation.
That's a very different situation.
It's just me venting about the time that I couldn't get Centrelink.
And the ruling class who own multiple investment properties who are disclosing what they own for the sake of, avoiding conflicts of interest. Two very different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, you make some good points, Tom. You make some good points.
Thank you very much.
I think the only, there was someone.
I will say,
right.
just try being on Centrelink and writing on the form, it's my partner's private business, about how much money they earn.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
None of your beeswax.
In terms of the people who put stuff that, like, I don't think you need to, but Andrew Wilkie, I feel like this is just purely wife guy shit, where he has specifically put down in things that could potentially be a conflict of interest, just generally. He's like, my wife is a doctor. She's a medical doctor. What's the nature of the conflict of interest? Being a medical doctor.
Being a medical doctor.
My wife. We get it. Your wife's a doctor. Okay, dude.
Move on. We fuck 3 times a week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Nature of the conflict of interest, being too horny and sexually satisfied by my hot wife. Yeah. I think that's one of the only places. Again, when we're talking about other sources of income and stuff, one of the only things on Max's form is like his partner who is doing her PhD has like a PhD scholarship and does casual university tutoring. And the rest of his form is pretty much completely blank except for union memberships. His is it is so stark. You look like, at first I looked at his form and I was like, oh, maybe this is kind of common, like that a lot of people wouldn't have that much stuff to declare. No, everyone else has got like something. Max is just like, I have no interest in anything.
He does bank with Commonwealth Bank of Australia, which I find
is pretty
disappointing.
cancelable. That is disappointing. Yeah. One of those people that just hasn't got around to moving to Bank Australia yet.
Do it, mate. Come on.
Credit union. Similarly, Stevens is like very just normal dude. At first glance, you'd be like, oh, he has shares. He has shares in Apple because he worked at Apple. And Apple does this classic thing that I think a lot of American companies do, and these big multinational corporations will do, the modern ones, when they want to seem like they care about their employees, but they don't really want to pay them very well or treat them any better. So they just give them shares in the company as like a trade-off. So every Apple employee gets shares. So Stephen has Apple shares, which I think he then said that he sold anyway, or he like disposed of as soon as he got elected. He has like a car loan. Pretty normal, like
people listing their
29-year-old
cars
stuff.
is kind of cute.
Yeah.
Just
but
like
a lot of them listing their cars, it's like Porsche, Mercedes, yeah. But then Mr. Stephen Bates, Greens member for Brisbane, has an addition to make to his form, Qantas Lounge membership. The fucking Qantas, he couldn't resist. He's like, yes, hello, I'm here.
He signed up. I mean, look, it's awkward, but come on, Max and Stephen are now on $211K a year for at least 3 years. They're probably going to buy a house, and then they're going to have to declare that.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Hopefully they don't rent them out.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, sure, they absolutely should buy a home for themselves. Because like in our current housing system, the only way that you can have a somewhat secure home is by having a good, like very good income and owning, because you won't get it by renting. You won't get it any other way. So yeah, they should. Yeah. I mean, it's worth noting, of course, that those are the only two of our Greens MPs who've put their stuff up to date. I haven't looked at the senators because they are, actually, I don't think any of the senators have uploaded theirs yet. But obviously it is not the case for all of the Greens MPs that they do not have any interests and are poor. Some of them own 4 properties. So yes, they're not all totally salt of the earth, working class people. I think that's worth calling out. But the proportion of them who are renters, i.e. more than 0, and just the proportion, like the wealth that is shared between our Greens MPs, or the number of people, the Greens MPs that are actually genuinely working class people and ordinary people, worlds beyond the major parties, especially for the fucking Labor Party, who claim to be working class.
Yeah.
And who will claim that the Greens are only representative of wealthy inner city elites.
Right.
Look, I am almost done. I just had one particular register of interest that I wanted to go through for one particular MP because I absolutely loved it. And I think that it really, if you're looking for a sample of, if you want to like computer generate an MP, someone who is capable of quite easily becoming a politician in the Australian political landscape and economic system, this is your guy. And you will see what I mean. So I'm talking about Andrew Wilcox, who is the new member for Dawson after, RIP George Christensen.
RIP.
RIP.
The member for Manila.
The member for Manila. First, let me tell you, before we start, I'm going to actually tell you about Andrew.
Great.
Based on his website. And this is in this beautiful kind of cursive about, and then it goes, Andrew. Anyway, it says, Andrew Wilcox is a born and bred North Queenslander who knows what matters in this region because he's lived it and breathed it.
Well,
he's
good.
a third-generation tomato farmer who understands the land and knows how to get his hands dirty. He's a father, a family man, a small business owner, and a community leader. And as mayor of the Whitsundays, he's led the way in fighting for his region, blah, blah, blah. So he was a mayor, of course. He's already been in politics before he got elected, jumped up to federal, as they love to do. Lots of photos here of him holding tomatoes. Now, Andrew's register of interest, let me get it up. Mr. Wilcox, this guy.
He knows how to get his hands dirty with the
a
awful corporate
lot
money.
Of money.
Yes.
It's funny as well because it's it is a very nationals register of interest. It's not so much the libs like that you might get from Sydney where they've got a bunch of shares just in random companies. It's more that he's got all of these like trusts and stuff that he has obviously set up for his incredibly wealthy family and all of his children to be looked after by daddy for the rest of their lives. So it's all like the name of the companies in which he has shareholdings. Apart from, there's There's like Telstra, and there's a few other random things, but it's like Ray and Will Pty Ltd, Ray and Will Land Pty Ltd.
God.
I assume that Ray is the name of his partner, I would assume. So it's all just stuff that he has with his wife. He's got in these companies that he has interest in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. There's 18 of them, by the way. And then we scroll on down. We're like, wow, that's a lot. And then you get to the trusts page, the list of family and business trusts and nominee companies. And you're like, whoa, it's all okay. I would love to be this man's child. The Georgia Trust number 2, the Georgia Trust number 3, the Owen Trust number 2. It goes on. The Jack Wilcox Trust, the Shannon Wilcox Trust, the Tom Wilcox Trust, the A&R Investment Trust, the Wilcox Trading Trust, and then intriguingly, one that's simply called the Fund Trust.
The Fund Trust. There's Fund Trust number 2, Fund Trust number 3. That's so much fun.
Yeah, I know. I quite like that. It's very good. We scroll down, of course, to real estate. He has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties owned by himself.
That's what you want.
Looks like some of them his partner also has an interest in.
Throughout Townsville at the moment, a town experiencing a crippling housing crisis and shortage both in ownership and the rental market. Just absolutely, people getting kicked out of their houses, having to live in camper trailers. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. Well, he is... He is a born and bred North Queenslander who knows what matters in this region because he's lived it and breathed it.
Yep.
He has been hoarding the land that you cannot access for a home. He's lived and breathed it.
How many people are buying tomatoes? I didn't know Big Tomato was like an incredible...
Tomato business is booming. It's just incredible, Tom. You got to get into it. It goes on. He's got it's all his fucking properties, all of his bloody trusts. Let's get to the saving or investment accounts. I assume this is all of those trusts. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 fucking savings accounts.
Great.
He's got his Foxtel subscription and then he's got, of course, his 2 tickets to the North Queensland Cowboys game, gifted by who? None other but Bravas Mining. Thanks, Adani. I'm not finished.
You can't afford 2 tickets to a fucking football game?
No.
Access the fund. That's what the Fund Trust is for. The Fund Trust is to get money to go see the fun football.
No, people weren't buying tomatoes at that time. It wasn't fashionable. This isn't a tomato down turn.
Christ.
He, of course, this man is a member of the Bow and Pistol Club. He shoots guns. My friends. And most fucking suspicious of all, member of the Kennedy Masonic Lodge. He's a Mason. Can you get a more politician-y man than this politician?
He's the most politician-y. I like how he's listed he's a member of the LNP as well. That's very transparent.
It is interesting. Again, some people will list their political party as a potential cause, source of a conflict of interest in performing their duties as a member of parliament. Some people don't. Interesting insight into how these people view their role. But
do all the Labor MPs list their union membership? Because I feel like
some do, some don't.
Some don't.
Yeah, I don't know what clearly there are not very clear or strict rules around what you do.
No, well, clearly Bob Catter can just say, I'm not going to tell you that information and there's no consequences whatsoever, and who gives a fuck?
Right, yeah.
And I suppose the theory is that we, the people, will read that or read that in Crikey or whatever. You're probably the only person who's looked through these registered interests in the country, by the way. And then we will make a judgment about Bob Catter, I suppose, and then it's up to the people to decide as to whether that's above board or not. And
yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's is this registered? Is this where we look at this and go, oh, there's a lot of conflicts of interest here. Do we need to do something about it?
Yes.
Or be do we need to make sure that these people can't kind of be in parliament? To me, it's more just if you just wanted proof that the political class is completely divided, completely separate from ordinary people in Australia, it's just kind of a way of reminding yourself of that.
There it is. I mean, this is my thing with disclosure. This is why the fucking electoral reform laws and the donation disclosure laws, and then we need real-time disclosure, and then the threshold needs to be lower. And I'm like, that might be a bit better, but the problem is the money. Like, everyone knows that our political parties receive massive amounts of money from private corporations. They know that. They just wear that because there's no come up, and everybody does it. Both sides of politics does it. So there's no one ever fucking talks about it. No journalist ever asks about, donations and the conflict of interest that might impact on their policy positions. It just legalized corruption, and it just happens. And if the disclosure of that corruption happens in real time, I don't think it's going to make much of a fucking difference. Yeah,
the idea that they're going to be discouraged from like accepting those donations, or the companies won't make the donations, or like these people like won't be landlords because they'll be so shamed. It's like, no, because it's completely accepted just as the norm that everyone in Parliament should be taking money from big corporations and wringing poor fucking suffering tenants dry of 80% of their income every week for their own profit.
Yeah.
Look, there'll be more. There's more coming. We will put the link in the show notes to this special episode or somewhere. You can go look up the Register of Interest yourself. It's a little bit of fun if you're an absolute brain rotted nerd like I am. You have nothing else to hope for or laugh about.
Anyway, thanks for being patrons.
We love you. Hope you liked it. Bye.
We should do our own register of interests. We should disclose them to, for full accountability as podcast hosts.
Okay.
Make sure that there's no.
What's yours? You've got a property.
I do have a mortgage. Yes, that's true.
Do you have shares?
I have no shares, no.
Yeah, I don't have any shares.
My spouse does, though.
I have 2 bank accounts because I have a Citibank one that I use when I go overseas, because then I don't have to pay the $4 at the ATM.
Oh, that's clever. Oh, yes, I've got a Monzo account as well. I am with Bank Australia.
Yeah, me too. I'm a member of the Services Union and the Queensland Greens.
Member of the MEAA and the Victorian Greens. I'm in the Qantas Club.
I don't have a Qantas Club membership. No Foxtel. No footy tickets gifted to me. This is why I'll never be a politician.
Yeah, clearly. There you go. Full disclosure, everyone.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks for supporting the show. Bye.
Bye.
Serious danger to Australia.